Are we actually going to see a Matheus Fernandes bidding war? We're going to go through Fabrizio Romano's updates. We're going to look at the options as well. Too many big updates about too many last night as well. So it could be that Man United have to make a decision. And we've been discussing this transfer what feels like a long time in the transfer window so far. And maybe Manchester United have to look at it and say, if this is true, and it is put out there that maybe Matheus Fernandes is actually going to go to the highest bidder as well. So if Matheus Fernandes favours a move to Manchester United, in my opinion, he should probably come out and say exactly that he's prioritising a move to Manchester United. And my view is starting to change a little bit on this deal, where I thought it was a good deal initially. We should have made an offer probably about a month ago. We should have actually discussed this before. And also, I think if Matheus Fernandes genuinely wants to go to the highest bidder, maybe Manchester United should look at other deals. Like it's getting towards that stage now where I think United have done the groundwork. We know that the players are interested. If Matheus Fernandes is actually just seeing as Manchester United and Spurs are just a stepping stone to Madrid or PSG, which could be the case. I mean, Matheus Fernandes might well be looking at Spurs thinking, I'll go there for a year or two and then I'll leave from Real Madrid after I've got a bit more experience. So that could be the case as well. I think United and Spurs have to be careful with this deal because if he is, and again, I have to say this depends on the accuracy of Fabrizio and what he's putting out there. There is an update from the Manchester Evening News as well regarding the financial situation of West Ham, which we'll go into as well. But this is a deal where I'm starting to get to the decision where I know it's quite early on in the transfer window and it is quite early, but should Manchester United be looking at other options? That's what I'm thinking at this point in time. So I'll go for some comments and see what people are thinking as well. United Side Die, Rob, good to see you, Andy as well in the chat. Cody, I saw earlier as well. So give it to you and DHEX. Hope everybody's having a good morning. I'm bringing back morning streams, but they're probably going to be a bit shorter than normal, depending on how popular they are. But in terms of this, West Ham are asking for 85 million without add-ons for a player that's been relegated. So I would probably I know West Ham have been relegated. I don't think the relegation is a factor at the moment. But I think that the main factor is that Matheus Fernandes has got multiple teams supposedly interested. He's got an agent that is going to do nothing but talk up things. And I think Mendes would like to delay things because it does mean that the Spurs story gets a bit of traction. And it could be that potentially there's interest from other clubs. So I think the fact of being relegated means they're going to sell him. I don't think it necessarily affects the price too much. But again, we'll have to see, won't we? It could be that this is the 1 year where transfers are just getting so expensive, outside eyes. So it might be that this is if you're going to sell players, this could be the window to try and do this deal. I keep saying as well, why aren't we going for Boadi? Like, why aren't we going for Boadi? We should have done that deal in January, but I feel a bit like I'm banging my head against a brick wall saying about deals we should have done a long time ago. 85 million, walk away if he wants to go to Spurs. If he wants to go to Spurs, and again, this is the bit where it depends who we believe. But there's a lot of people putting out a lot of information there. I don't know who to believe. I'll say this: like Fabrizio Romano, he's saying like he's generally a bit vague, but he's saying in terms of this one, and this is what Fabrizio says, is that Matheus Fernandes would be waiting for the best possible prospect, best deal, essentially the best contract. And if Man United want to make Matheus Fernandes deal happen, it's kind of like kind of pushing the story there that Man United have to put an offer on the table that's better than Spurs. That's what it's saying. So it's pretty much painting Fernandes as a pure mercenary. That's pretty much what they're saying. Let's be blunt about it. They're pretty much saying if you want Fernandes, put the money on the table. And that's the way it's looking at. So this for me is like the opposite of the Mbeumo deal, where Mbeumo came out and said, I'm happy to stay with Brentford, but if I do leave, I'm only joining Manchester United. If Matheus Fernandes said that weeks ago, okay, it reduces Fernandes' negotiating position, I'm sure. It kind of reduces West Ham's negotiation strength as well. And it means Man United can actually get the deal done. I would not be surprised if the contract Man United offer Matheus Fernandes would not be different based on like how much we have to pay him. If anything, we might be a bit more generous if we don't have to pay a crazy transfer fee. But I think this expectation that Man United are going to outbid another club to get a player, I just don't see that happening. Like we didn't push the boat out to get some menu. We didn't try and outbid other players and different. So I don't think we're going to do this. I don't know. We didn't outbid Spurs. We didn't outbid Newcastle to get Sesko, did we? So why would we push that there. And I think Matheus Fernandes, the interest in Sesko was years in the making. The Fernandes one is a bit of a shorter term deal. The other side of this is the Manchester Evening News. I'll come to the comments in a second. Is that Manchester Evening News saying that Manchester United playing it cool because West Ham have to find money before the 30th of June, which is only 8 days away, which suggests a little bit of urgency on West Ham's part. That's what they're saying there. So West Ham need to get money in. Again, we don't know if this is 100% accurate, but to borrow £100 million is not going to be particularly difficult for Premier League clubs. So I'm just saying that there could be options on the table for West Ham. This would be a little bit similar to Newcastle having to sell Anderson to balance the books to avoid a points deduction. So if there is potential sanctions from the Premier League, if you think about like Newcastle selling Anderson and you look at the situation at Leicester where they got points deducted, so the Premier League, the fact West Ham have been relegated doesn't mean the Premier League won't go after them and deduct points. We saw that with Leicester, and it was a factor in their relegation last season to League One. So again, if West Ham are looking to get promoted, then clearly they might need some money for a bit of a rebuild. I think the squad's good at the moment, probably good enough to get it back up. But if they're going to have to sell players to balance the books, they're going to have to make sure they buy wisely as well. But they're going to make sure they don't want a points deduction. A points deduction to try and get promoted back to the Premier League could be massively, I say, it's more than a bit inconvenient, isn't it? It could really damage their prospects. So we'll have to see if that's true. Then I think that does change things a little bit. But again, we have to see how accurate these are going to be. Wizard Bear says, can we wave goodbye to this deal? Say 40 million at best. Say he's nothing special. So I think for me with Matheus Fernandes, I kind of put him in the same sort of category as, and what's the word for it? So like you got Alex Scott, you got Matheus Fernandes, you got Carlos Baleba. I think all these players are like they're not poor players, but they're not players that should cost like 80, 90 million pounds. Like the sort of money that West Ham want feels unrealistic for where the player is in his career. Like when you're talking about 80 million pounds, I said this like weeks ago that it's absolutely ridiculous as well that we should not be paying 80 million pounds. There's no way that Real Madrid are going to pay 80 million pounds for Marcos Fernandes. Surely there's no way that Spurs pay that money either. I mean, Spurs are apparently, again, we'll have to see if this is an update or if something happens. Apparently, Spurs are making serious moves for Tonali, which for me, I would seriously question Tonali's ambitions if he's going to join Spurs. In the same way that I would question if Matheus Fernandes really wants a big step up from West Ham, is he just choosing another team that's going to be in a relegation fight? Spurs have finished like poor. What was it, like 16th to 17th for like 2 years in a row? Like really poor. So again, if Matheus Fernandes joins Spurs, it must be about the money. Scott says he's obviously going to get relegated again if he joins Spurs. Maybe Matheus Fernandes is the person that's relegating teams. I mean, I don't think it is a factor, but if he joins Spurs and Spurs get relegated, I think he kind of deserve it. B Hex said, I would wait for other teams to bid, keep waiting until the 30th. Again, this kind of like deadline, we have suggested this as well. When you're talking about financial years and July being a time where Manchester United might favour a move in July anyway, just financially. But for West Ham, if there really is this deadline of the 30th, and again, we have to find out. We're probably going to have to wait until the end of the week to find out if this is accurate. But West Ham can't mess about. West Ham actually have to make sure they get the books balanced because the Premier League, unless you're Man City, the Premier League doesn't take any prisoners, does it? So, big up to you, Clive, in the chat, and big up to you, Niche Fan, as well. And so, morning to Mike says, if Fernandes is costing so much, let's forget about him, get too many and others. So, just to go quickly to the too many story, and this is one where it's kind of frustrating because it's going to take a bit of time to play out. But Manchester United have made contacts with too many, we know that. And apparently, too many has refused a contract offer from Real Madrid. And apparently, he's keen on a move to Manchester United. So I have to say that, again, these are initial stories. Murato, usually decent. So some of the sources, usually good sources, but they're putting out the story saying that too many is interested. And There was a lot of excitement last night on social media. I took the night off yesterday, Father's Day, spent some time with my daughters watching films and football. So I didn't cover the story last night, but in terms of like this one, we know players are going to be available from Real Madrid, and the players that are going to be available, it seems that it's going to be too many Camavinga. So a lot of people thinking that Camavinga is one that maybe gets pushed, whereas too many Real Madrid might favour keeping too many, but if they can't agree a new contract with him, they might look at cashing in. He's not going to be cheap though, so he's not going to be a cheap option. I think that's the problem that if Matheus Fernandes costs, let's assume Matheus Fernandes, if he does cost 80, 85, which I think is like way too much money, then I don't think too many is going to come as like some sort of cheap cut price deal. It's going to be ridiculous, isn't it? So ridiculous. Niche fan says this is insanity. If if it's like 85 million for Fernandez, Mainoo's worth 100. I think Mainoo's a better football player than Matheus Fernandez. That people can talk about what can Fernandez do, his strengths, his weaknesses. Mainoo's been doing it at a higher level, and Mainoo's done this at international level. Mainoo has done this for Manchester United in a team finishing third, not a team getting relegated twice. So Mainoo has been part of a Manchester United team that has lifted trophies, that has got Champions League football, and he's played in Euros final as well. So to compare this one, like yeah, if Matheus Fernandes is 85, Mainoo is worth 125, like easily. Like I know people sort of talk up certain players, but it is a bit ridiculous that we're kind of lucky we didn't sell Mainoo. That's probably one thing. We're lucky we did not sell Mainoo. Niche fan says, let's pivot to too many. United, so die saying too many all the way. If you're looking at buying a player that walks into your team with all the experience, like I keep saying this, and I have said this a lot of times. There's no doubt that like Matheus Fernandes, Alex Scott, Buwadi, um, probably Belieber. There are a lot of players that okay, I think Buwadi's the best of that group, but there's a lot of players that we're going to see their best. We're going to see the best football from all these players in a couple of years' time, probably. I think Buwadi probably represents the one player at the moment, and maybe Eddie Anderson. Anderson and Buwadi are the two players that are available at the moment that are doing very well for their countries as well. They're looking very good on the international stage against good opposition. So that has to be a factor as well. Anderson looked very good against an experienced Croatian team. We saw Buwadi look very good against a very decent Brazil midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, Casemiro. So decent midfielders against. And I think they represent the two best options if we're not talking about players that are already there. Players that are already there, too many. I did see a story this morning, and I don't know if this has got relevance to anything at all, but the story I saw this morning was that apparently too many might not be playing in the next game that France are playing in the World Cup. It's apparently he missed training. Apparently, I don't know if there's anything in this at all or there's something happening, but we'll have to see. Like, I'm not sure when France plays next, but there is a potential that too many is not involved in that game. I don't think it's anything to do with transfer news. It would be a bit strange if transfer news affects players playing for their country, but there is possibly something going on. I don't know whether it's like a knock, but anyway, if there is something happening with too many, I'm sure it's going to be reported because he's obviously going to be quite a big story. We'll just have to see if there's any more developments on that one. I think sometimes information is coming out quite late at night because it's the World Cup, different time zone. So journalists operating in slightly different ways. So it might be that the morning streams come back because there's a bit more information out there as well. But if you're new to the channel, then and people watching, please share the stream if you can. Otherwise, if 9 a.m. streams don't get watched at all, we might just stick with the 1 p.m. But we're just going to experiment now because there's a lot of news coming out overnight, which means that maybe 9 a.m. is quite a good time to stream. United Dice says too many better defensive metrics than Fernandez. Key passes, progressive passes next to Mainoo will go far. I think he's a really good option. Like for me, if you're looking at pairing Curry Mainoo with anybody, too many and Elliot Anderson are probably the two players I'd go for. Like too many defensively unbelievable, wins the duels unbelievable. I think with Anderson, the reason why I probably prioritised Anderson maybe going back a month or so might have been that with Manchester United, if you got Kobe Mainoo, you do have someone like Anderson that does cover the ground, does put in the challenges. So I think it's about looking at what works best because Man United's midfield, we're going to have Bruno Fernandes in the team. We're going to have Koeman in the team. There's no doubt that they're going to be, what a team's built around. So I'd be surprised if we didn't look seriously at too many if he's available. Yeah, I think defensively, you're hard pushed to find someone that's going to be a better fit, and maybe alongside Mainu that would be good. I think Anderson for me does offer you a bit of a different style of play, and again. The fact that Anderson doesn't win as many of his duels, but he just puts in so much more work. And I think Anderson also, he's a few years younger than too many. He's got time to improve on a lot of his weaknesses. So Mr. B says latest news: Manchester United and Arsenal both after Thiago, and say he will go to the highest bidder as long as it is high. Do you think he has any is there any preference towards any team, or is it just about pushing for a move? Is this another Gyökeres deal where is he decided he wants to go to Arsenal? Arsenal have won the Premier League. They've got to be like a team that players look at going to a bit more seriously than they have been in previous years. So I don't know. Cody says finally, Matt Moretto says something we like. And so this one, I think the key thing here is that it depends on is too many just after is too many also say everyone a mercenary in football, but too many it seems that he wants to. If he's turning down a deal from Real Madrid and apparently wants to stay at Real Madrid, is this interest in Manchester United a way of too many getting a better contract? So I would be a bit skeptical of too much regarding too many. Like, does too many really want to join Man United? Like, he's at Real Madrid. They're going to potentially rebuild and try and win the Champions League next season. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, too many. It's like he's already got lots of success. I don't really know why you'd want to leave Real Madrid. I'm not sure he does want to leave Real Madrid. The only reason I can see it is if too many just wants more cash United are prepared to offer that, which again is quite a big stretch because Man United are not particularly known for throwing out big contracts in the last sort of couple of years. It might be that they're looking at trying to limit that a little bit. So again, if you've got any comments or questions on any of these, then please get them in. Emersky says we need both Fernandes and Tchouaméni, say 65 plus 15 add-ons, 70 respectively. I would say with this one, that if too many is available on the market, like if you put too many on the market now, I can't see him being as cheap as £70 million. That if you're looking at average players costing 50 to 60 million, too many is not an average football player. Like for me, if he's going to be 100 million, isn't he? Surely, if Tonali's worth 100 million, too many has to be worth 100 million. If Matheus Fernandes costs 85 or 80, which you got 65 plus 15 there, so you got a price of about 80 for Fernandes. I can't see a reality where too many costs less than Matheus Fernandes. I know his contract's going to be a lot more, but there's a reason why that's a lot more. It's because too many has spent the last 4 or 5 years lifting up trophies and being a serial winner, and there's literally nothing there from Fernandes. Like he's played for Southampton, he's played for West Ham. Okay, he's stepped up in a team that's fighting relegation and been one of the better players, but it's not the same. Like these two players are not comparable. If Matheus Fernandes improves loads, but I don't think you can spend 85 million or 80 million pounds on a player you think is going to be good enough. Like there's no. I think Matheus Fernandes is a good player. It's just like for me, the money's starting to be ridiculous. Like I said a month ago, 85 million is like ridiculous. Yali, big up to you, Yali, says, what's really funny is that Romano looks to be completely out of the loop. And the story came out with last night was not what the paper is written on, which part, 'cause I think he said quite a few things, Romano. I mean, I'm not up to date with everything Romano said, because he is pushing out a lot of content, and a lot of it tags on Man United's name to this one as well. I'd say too many is good mates with Pogba, spoke to Varane, and say would most likely pull towards us. I think if players are going to be leaving Real Madrid, then clearly they're playing for a very big. If you're playing for Real Madrid, you're playing for one of the highest profile teams in Europe. So I don't think we're going to have a situation where if you jump from Real Madrid, I think you're probably looking at Man United, the top teams in the Premier League. Because for a start, there's probably only about 5 teams that can afford your salary. It's going to be top Premier League teams, or it's going to be Barcelona, who obviously Real Madrid don't want to sell players to Barcelona. Um, he may have seen the love Casemiro got. It might be that I don't know what the Real Madrid fan base has been like towards Tchouaméni. I know the Real Madrid fan base is, let's put it this way, it's volatile to say the least. So it might be that he looks at that and thinks, actually, maybe that's a good environment. It could be that there's quite a lot of positivity about Man United at the moment. The team spirit seems to be pretty decent. I don't think this is a factor, Alex, but to be honest, I don't really care the reason. Um, so one thing to note is that from the 1st of July, Matheus Fernandes' wages will be slashed by half because West Ham are relegated, and so him and his camp are not going to like that. So I think with this one as well that you're going to lose a bit of your. So again, if you're going to lose a bit of salary, I'm not sure how much Matheus Fernandes is on, but I'm sure he's going to get a massive pay rise wherever he goes. So it might be the play in the long game that if he's going to lose, I've no idea how much he gets paid a week or how much he's going to lose, but he's probably going to get a bumper pay rise wherever he goes as well. So I won't worry too much about Matheus Fernandes' cash. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. So if Mourinho looks at Valverde issue, looks to replace him with Enzo, then we get Tchouaméni. Watch out for PSG if that option becomes available. That would be a serious one actually as well. So I think we might see, you know how we're looking at Matheus Fernandes and we're considering PSG as an option, we're considering Real Madrid as an option. The problem is Man United now looking at the better quality players, and there's going to be significant fight. Do you remember last season we looked at two years ago? We signed Agate. I'm pretty sure there was nobody else interested at all in Agate. So no surprise there. Agate's been pretty poor. But if you're looking at Tchouaméni, if Tchouaméni's available, do we think we're going to are we going to be first in line? I think there would be a very serious. If I was PSG, actually, I would probably not want to change my midfield too much. I know Tchouaméni is a top quality player, but if I was PSG, when you've got a team that's like functioning as well as they have, two Champions Leagues in a row, I would just keep the band together and go for a third. So I know PSG might be seriously interested in Tchouaméni, but I would probably say if I was in charge of PSG's transfers, I would not change that midfield. Like everything's working perfectly. Like Tchouaméni's a quality player, don't get me wrong. I think for Man United, we've got no midfield, so Tchouaméni walks straight in. But if Man United had the midfield that PSG has got, I would not be changing midfield at all. I would be looking to buy better quality defenders and maybe a more clinical finisher. So I think with Man United, our needs are different to PSG's. But I do agree, though, that PSG are obviously, I'm not in charge of PSG recruitment, and PSG will probably definitely look at this deal. Like Tchouaméni's too good for top teams to not look at. Yeah, for some reason, Scott, for some reason, we seem to be the only team that can't sell a player in this window for crazy money as well. And so, Vril, Vril, this is a really good point. Very good point that Real Madrid, Real Madrid, I said they wouldn't sell to Barcelona because obviously, they obviously for obvious reasons, they hate Barcelona, but obviously they also fight with Barcelona for that competition. And I guess with Real Madrid, you don't really care about Man United at the moment. Man United is not expected to be a serious contender in the Champions League. But if you're Real Madrid, you're effectively battling Barcelona domestically. I don't see any serious competition in Spain. And then you're fighting the top teams across Europe, and it would be PSG. Effectively, you got Arsenal as well, but PSG, Arsenal, maybe Man City or Liverpool, but they've been quite poor in Europe recently. I don't see there's no competition from Italian teams really. So it could be Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Arsenal have been the best teams in Europe over the last couple of seasons. And it might be that obviously with Barcelona bought Gordon, so I'm not sure if that's a real strength, but we'll see. But yeah, I think you're right, Real. Like, why would Real Madrid strengthen PSG unless they feel like they're getting a better end of the deal? So I'm just trying to think actually, if anyone's got any thoughts on this one, is there any players you can think of that have left Real Madrid in their prime or close to their prime, and where have they gone? Like I can't remember many good players leaving Real Madrid. They tend to move players on when they're looking to get younger players in or better quality players in. So like Tchouaméni would be a different one. I think Man United, we might be a combination of we might be one of the few teams that can afford him, and one of the few teams that are not considered a significant threat to Real Madrid in the next year or so. So it might be that we're rich enough to afford him, but we're not good enough to be a problem for Real Madrid. Possibly. I mean, we do have a good relationship as well with that one. So I don't know. If you're Madrid and you just sold for too many and got Fernandez, would you be happy? I think that's a question where I don't think that's a sort of that doesn't feel like a Mourinho deal. Mourinho feels like a sort of player that I think with Mourinho, you want the finished articles in, don't you? Like Mourinho doesn't want a project. Like Mourinho's not going to Real Madrid because he thinks in 5 years' time the team's going to be great. He needs the team to be great this year and maybe next year, otherwise he's getting sacked. So I think with Mourinho, he doesn't have a lot of time either. You don't get time. Like Real Madrid isn't the sort of team you go to and get given a few years to build the squad, is it? And Yari says Spurs can pay 150 when the player does not want to go there. It will not matter like what happened with Sesko. So United got priority. There is no hope for Spurs with this player. I hope you're right, Yarley. I hope you're right. The only thing is, like, all I'm saying is that I think my viewpoint was pretty much that Matheus Fernandes knows what he wants. I can't really understand the only reason I could see Matheus Fernandes going to Spurs is if he's got a longer term plan in mind. If you think about it, he's gone, joined Southampton, gone to West Ham. It's probably a slight upgrade considering like Southampton had just been promoted, and Spurs would still be a bit of an upgrade from West Ham. Sort of, well, obviously West Ham are a Championship team at the moment, but I think Spurs might be an upgrade as well because they should be better than they are. They have got some decent players. You'd imagine that they're going to spend quite a bit of money. Their wage bill is like relatively low considering compared with their turnover. So Spurs could improve quite a bit. And maybe for Matheus Fernandes, maybe the idea is he just wants to get in a Premier League team for another couple of years and then jump to PSG or jump to Real Madrid. So for Matheus Fernandes, this might just be a stepping stone. If he joins Man United, clearly it's a bit different because Man United will not be looking to sell him in the near future. And I think even Spurs, if Spurs end up paying about £80 million, it's not the sort of player you then sell for a profit, is it? So if Matheus Fernandes wants to, again, this is kind of hypothetical, but if Matheus Fernandes sees Spurs as a stepping stone, it's probably not in his best interest to cost as much money as was West Ham want. So I don't see how this might be a bit of a short term benefit to Fernandez. He might get a little bit more money from the transfer if his transfer fee costs a lot, but in the long run, it might be better off for him if he doesn't cost a load of money because he potentially might want to move from Spurs to a Real Madrid in the future, and costing 80 million might make that more tricky because Spurs are not going to want to sell a player for the same sort of money. They're going to have to get a significant profit to get that make that deal worthwhile. But yeah, I think that maybe this is like kind of similar then because you're saying with you saying this is like what happened with Sesko as well that there's going to be it doesn't matter what Spurs bid, but it would be quite nice, wouldn't it, if Matheus Fernandes came out and actually said that as well. So so Di Maria, Robin, Schneider all left were in their prime. I'm just trying to think where they went to. So obviously we got Di Maria. You saw Ozil went to I think when Ozil Robin, I think Makaleli, maybe Iron Robin is like one where was he at Real Madrid before he went to Chelsea then? But I'm just thinking like Makaleli, obviously it's a Chelsea player, Robin a Chelsea player. So maybe there's reasons why those players left. But again, I think Real Madrid tend to not want to lose players in their prime if possible. So you're linked with Somerville. So why would want to fund West Ham in the Championship? I think Somerville's like I think Somerville's a decent player, but I think he's just going to be. Maybe there's a reason why there's something going on with Somerville. I don't know if Man United should seriously be trying to get him. Welcome, Andy. Andy says, I agree. Fernandez said Spurs were in contract negotiations and there shouldn't be a problem in agreeing terms. Now, if he agrees terms with Spurs, then I think Man United should maybe we should consider pivoting at that point. But if he's happy to agree terms with Spurs and he's not really cooperating, I think Man United should look at other options. And the question is going to be, who do you pivot to? Do you hang on and wait for too many? Is there a serious move? Like, do people think Man United would seriously try and go for Boadi? For me, I think he would have been a good option. Sanderberg has been very good, says United I die. Actually, if you remember, I think the stream might have been last Thursday or Friday. Someone in the comments called Yank Talking Smack, who used to be this guy called Connor. He was talking about Sanderberg about 4 or 5 years ago. I think the only thing with Sanderberg is that his cost keeps going up as well. So, no, it's a bit of a shame. Maybe it's an indication like Schneider must have Real Madrid. I'm trying to think. Mourinho must have been at Real Madrid before that point in time as well. So maybe that's a relationship with the manager that helped get those deals done. So it could be that Schneider left because of the Inter Milan links. I think didn't Inter actually have? Did they have Patrick Vieira then as well? I'd say your big take is Carrick stays for 2 years, in which we transition to a 4-3-3. Then Luis Enrique arrives in 29. Was that 28, 29? To hand us our first Premier League title in 16 years. Carrick leaves as a great success and 2 cups. So I'm wondering what happens with like clearly Man United have got an idea, and maybe the way of getting someone like Luis Enrique would be that Man United need to be a top four team as a minimum for at least the next couple of seasons. If we can lift domestic cups, prove ourselves like decent in the Champions League, it would be an interesting one. I would guess that this kind of takes a bit of long-term planning, but maybe some of the best quality players, maybe some of the best players at PSG at the moment, they're probably on like 5-year contracts. They've been at PSG a couple of years. Is there any sort of chance that Luis Enrique could bring one or two of those players over? Potentially. I mean, that's long-term optimism, isn't it? But I think short-term situation, which we're talking about today, does Matheus Fernandes fit into what we're trying to do next year? He does, but the price it's going to be potentially taking. Yannis, which one is this one? Is this the one with like? So maybe I see quite a lot of big channels talking about Yanni, but maybe this is what we're seeing. Then maybe he's just talking absolute nonsense. Maybe Fabrizio is going to be the same way as IndyCar. But again, every single transfer window, I think journalists, in terms of which ones are credible, and again, we'll discuss them all. We'll remember what we've said, and we'll see if these stories actually play out. But if this is true, and like again, like Yali, I'm not saying Fabrizio is accurate either. I think Fabrizio is saying a lot of things, and I don't think Fabrizio has as much information as he used to have. There are a lot of people saying that Fabrizio doesn't get the people that are putting out more credible information now are people like Matt Moretto and people like I think it was like the journalists around Real Madrid, the journalists around Juventus, like some of the Italian media has been a bit more accurate. So maybe it is like Fabrizio is like a someone that's worth just treating with a bit of skepticism at the moment, which is fine. Be up to you, Mark, in the chat. Say Mourinho's way better than Pep. Mourinho's won everywhere, hasn't he? Pretty much. I think Mourinho would have won with Spurs as well. David, good to see you, David, in the chat. Say, you sense we're copying their model. Is this PSG? I think Man United are trying to do a bit more like PSG than if you consider like Chelsea. I think Chelsea is signing younger players, but they're not signing players of the quality of PSG. So maybe Man United is trying to. I think we are trying to construct a bit more of a PSG style model, which I think is something that's going to be potentially exciting. But you just have to. Yeah, I suppose you have to be a bit patient because it did take PSG a while to go from. If you think PSG had like the Mbappe and all the Sonic Galacticos they were going through. It took a while. Like PSG threw money at it for a long time. I'm not going to suggest Due and all the other players were cheap, Vitinha, etc. But they didn't cost £100 million, did they? So Romano was bad last summer. Then he got worse in the transfer window, and now he's making is it a cartoon instead of coming up with proper news. I think with this one, that yeah, maybe the problem is that with Fabrizio, he's going to make a lot of money, whatever he says. So he just says a lot of things. I mean, I did say to people yesterday that I've taken a bit of time off YouTube the last couple of days. There wasn't many streams on the weekend because there just wasn't a lot of news. And that you can just see that there's a lot of news put out there by Fabrizio, by say other sources as well, and people are treating it like fact. Like I know that if you look at the headlines, you look at what we're saying. I don't think we think it. We don't. I don't think we believe everything we read, but we just wonder why the information's out there. And as far as I can see, like what's the most believable? Like would Matheus Fernandes seriously consider a move to Spurs? Or and is it going to be true that in terms of this is more standard news, this is from the Manchester Evening News. Is it going to be true that West Ham really need the money by the end of the month? That West Ham are coming out and saying they don't need the money, that there isn't a financial pressure, and so there's two sides here, isn't there? They're saying pretty much exactly the opposite. So do West Ham need the money before the end of the month or not? Some journalists are saying West Ham do need the money. They need to sell players. They need to raise 100 million. And otherwise they're going to get sanctioned by the Premier League, which could be very serious. It'll be points deduction. And we saw with Leicester, it kind of dropped them down the league and then they just got relegated. They might have got relegated about the points deduction, but it certainly destroyed morale and the club just went down pretty rapidly after that. And you look at the situation with West Ham, they're going to need to raise money. They're going to want to get promoted as soon as possible. Getting relegated is going to be obviously a massive blow financially, but a points deduction would be absolutely devastating. And a year without Premier League football would hit them financially pretty hard. So let me go through a few of the comments. The best proposal with West Ham, yeah, I think you might be right, Yarley, because I don't see, it doesn't make any sense at all, does it? Andy says the stats department have lots of players I've identified, so trust the process. As fans, we're all or nothing and want it now. Um, do you think with this one that it's going to take like how long would you say it took PSG to rebuild their team? So I think Man United. The difference is Man United is in a lot more competitive league. Like Paris Saint-Germain could rebuild while still pretty much winning the league and occasionally finishing second. The difference with Man United is if the rebuild's a bit erratic, you do risk having a situation where you drop down the league significantly. I think that can't really happen, or shouldn't happen. I say United doesn't want to pay more than 40 to 60 million pounds. They just mess about, hoping for, you're saying we're hoping for a bidding war, so they have an excuse to drop out. If that's the case, Jim, if Man United don't want to spend, say, more than like, if they want to spend 40 to 60 million pounds, when have midfielders ever cost that amount? Like, if you're thinking like 40 to 60, we're talking like Fred Nagati, aren't we? We're not talking about Caicedo. We're not talking about Declan Rice or say the other top midfielders moving. So I'll just say this: like a little update from Edison is Man United. The first part of his medical has been completed. It's just delayed a bit because he's in the USA. His priority is training with the squad, and this is why it's taking a bit longer. So it's that's just a kind of logistics thing that he's taken like part of. He was going to do his medical, then he got called up to the Brazil squad because there was an injury. So Edison is a done deal. It's just going to be he's completed stage one of his medical, so we just have to wait until he does the rest of it. So it's a bit annoying, but I don't. I'll say this one. This one isn't on Man United. Like this one is just on him going to the World Cup. If Edison doesn't go to the World Cup, it's already completely done. So I think that's one where I'll say that's out of Man United's hands. They got that deal done quickly, and then other things happened. Fabrizio is like Andy's wife. Does Andy? If your wife manages to make loads and loads of money online talking about Man United, fair play to her. But no, Fabrizio, sometimes Fabrizio is like the opposite of Ben Jacobs. Ben Jacobs says nothing in a long way, whereas Fabrizio says everything and contradicts himself quite a lot, but he's also quite vague as well. And I'm not sure what the Bergvall story is. I think he was linked to a few clubs, but if he wants to leave Spurs, I mean, I think a lot of people want to leave Spurs, don't they? So Edison's a done deal. It's just going to be about when Man United get this deal done. So July the 1st, we're looking at what, 8 days. So this might be because don't players' contracts expire at the end of June? Is that going to be? Is that? I think contracts usually run from like July to the end of June, or certainly some of the deals Man United have got are. But say United never do business during the summer until after July the 1st. So Cunha first year was a special case. Maybe we can do this. I saw that. Maybe we might get too much information with that one. Um, or maybe that's just my mind. I don't know. We don't want to say too much about Andy's wife, and unless Andy's wife wants to get in the comments and disagree with Andy, in which case it'd be like the Manchester Evening News versus Fabrizio, wouldn't it? Elizabeth says, "I'm patient. You might be in the minority, Elizabeth. You might be in the minority of this one, but it's been 1 week since transfer window opened, and yeah, for me, I remember we talk about this quite a lot. And when people talk about panicking and worrying, this one as well, the most important thing is to get the right deals done. And for me, I don't even care about the price. Like for me, the price is not a factor in transfers. It's like, does the transfer window make sense? So you might spend a bit more on, like, say, like Sesko is not a cheap signing. You might spend not much money and get someone like Lamans in. It's again for me, it's the same as like if you get too many, it's gonna be very expensive. Anderson's gonna be very expensive. Hayden Hackney, Alex Scott, maybe Boadi, maybe Agume. There might be players that are a bit cheaper. I've actually seen a few people talking about Nemeka recently. He's linked to Arsenal, also Manchester United. We're going to probably see a few players in the World Cup linked, but they might know. When I see Nemeka linked, and I'm seeing who else was linked recently, other players that linked very recently, I don't think they're going to be serious options. I think Man United, that the options we know about are going to be the same ones we hear about until these deals get done. So the Matheus Fernandes deal, it feels like it's moving in slow motion, but I still think it's the most likely deal that we're going to see. That's what I'm saying. So it takes us 2 months to do one deal. It really does, doesn't it? I'd say I would say with this one, United to die. I would say just just with this one, there's going to be loads and loads of Rashford news out there. I'm not covering it unless there's significant like developments. But this is exactly why the news is out there, Andy, because it stimulates anger or frustration and it creates interest and it creates. So I think the stories out there are literally just to make you annoyed because it's about getting an emotional reaction from fans, and then people will click or read the articles or share the content. So I would say with Rashford, just be patient. I don't think Man United have got any interest in reintegrating him. I don't think Marcus Rashford's got any interest in coming back to Man United. So I think this is just going to be media just pushing out some stuff because yeah, it makes people annoyed, doesn't it? That's why they do it. They say we'll wait until Spurs bid, then match it. If it's too expensive, we'll walk away. If Spurs make a bid of £80 million, I think Man United should offer 70 and say, look to Matheus Fernandes, if you want to join Man United, that's the offer. If you want to join Spurs, if you want to spend your career at Spurs, then good luck to you. If you're going to be a very expensive Spurs signing, you might not be leaving Spurs in the near future. Do you really want to no, do you really want to tie down 4 or 5 years at Spurs? Jay says the excitement has gone in this deal. Even if we sign him, with what happened with Buemo, glad we signed him, but it took way too long, didn't it? Yeah, Chris. Yeah, I think with this one, I don't think Rashford's interested in coming back. I just don't think either party's interested in it. So Namek has been injured quite a bit, missed 46 days last season. So I suppose it's moving in the right direction, I guess. It's a die. I just don't think it's a serious link. That I think he's one of these players that's looked quite good for Germany, although Germany were pretty average in the last match. Like they looked really good against who was it they played? Caruso. But when they played a bit better team, like I think was it Ivory Coast that Germany beat? It was quite a struggle in that match, and they didn't look great. But no, Namaka's been linked with a few clubs. I'm a bit kind of lukewarm on that one. I'd say no, it is like they'll put a story out there that's designed to promote negativity. There's so much stories about Sancho last year, so many things about Rashford. I would just say that if there's a serious update, I'll try and discuss it. But I think at the moment that's just going to be a story that we're probably not going to hear much until he actually moves to a club. Yeah, is there any way this can work out badly? This- niche fan. I sense your frustration, and say you're worried that we're going to end up with Bergval and Sander Berg. There will probably be there if Man United got a midfield of Edison, Sanderberg, Bergval, then considering the players we're linked to, considering the players available, I think a lot of people would be a bit underwhelmed. But I did say that this is going to be one where I did say this a few times that it might be difficult to pick three players linked to the club, sign them all, and be disappointing. But there is potential. I think Sanderberg. There's nothing wrong with Sanderberg. But do you see Real Madrid trying to get Sanderberg? Do you see like Man United fighting against Arsenal and Liverpool to get Sanderberg? I think he's good, but I don't think it's going to be the level of player we need to sign. That's all I say. I think Sanderberg. There's nothing wrong with him individually. I just don't. I think there's better options out there. Willis better says, act in haste, repent at leisure. Maybe we should say to Chelsea fans that regarding some of the deals they've done, particularly if you think about it, Mathis Tell, a lot of people wanted Mathis Tell, and what did he do last year? Let's say, I'm not familiar with this player, but is this a striker? Because I can't remember. I know Freiburg played against Aston Villa. I saw some of that match, but it was so one-sided. I stopped watching because Arsenal, say Aston Villa, were just way stronger. Yeah, only German player you're taking is Musiala. Musiala's quality, isn't he? But he's going to be way too expensive. One player actually that people talked about a lot. I'm trying to think who his name is now. Yildiz, because Yildiz on the basis of this World Cup, he's looked poor, but Turkey have been really dreadful. So I would say that people watching Yildiz play for Juventus have been incredibly excited about that football player. But you have a couple of bad games in the World Cup, and people's like views on him change loads. So I think Musiala, the only issue about Musiala is I think injury record, like potentially is he missing a lot of games, but there's no way that that'd be an option. It'd be just way too expensive. Undav's actually, yeah, Undav looked pretty good, but again, we're talking about for me, it's about a limited amount of time in the transfer window. Yeah, I'm probably going to do quite short streams this morning. So every transfer window, you hear the same frustrations from fans, and say you're going to have a nice ice bath in 10 minutes, so you can say you're literally chilled. Yeah, I remember reading like a journal. Actually, no, remember reading like a couple of trying to think. Yeah, what was like scientific articles, and they were talking about the benefits of ice bath, the benefits of like heat treatment. You know, like sort of. I suppose hot bath would be the alternative, or like a sauna, and you get kind of similar benefits from both of them. So again, this weather though, this weather it might be worth jumping in the ice. I might have to put more ice in the freezer for drinks because it's going to be. I think today's going to be okay, but tomorrow's going to be like 33, 34. So the thing with Sanderberg is put a better player next to him becomes much better. Let's say fourth or fifth on a list of midfielders to hit a long ball last season, just behind Rodri. Again, maybe it's like me, Yardley. I think I was going to say that if you got Edison in, you've already got a player that people see, okay, it's like a cheap option. I'm not saying he is a cheap option, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Berg either. I know a few people that have watched Berg live. They say he's actually a lot better in real life than you people do see sometimes on the pitch. I think what you're looking at here is that I think Man United are also looking for how old is Berg now? Because I remember people talking about him 5 years ago, so I assumed he might be like late 20s now. I just think if United but if we got Sander Berg and someone like Matheus Fernandes, I'd be open minded. Go, let's see how this works. But it would feel a little bit like we didn't land our top targets, and maybe we might end up overpaying on like some of them as well. Do you think with this one is that no matter what Ineos do, no matter what transfers we're looking at, it still has to go through the Glazers to sanction the purchase. So I'm getting the feeling that with Man United that everything goes through the Glazers are kind of hands off, but they must be authorizing the checks and that sort of thing. So I get the feeling with Man United is there's just so many levels. You've got the scouts, the coaches, the data team, etc. Once you've made a decision though, and you want to sanction an offer, does it have to go right to the top of the club? Like, does Jim Ratcliffe have the authority to spend, or does he have to get approval from the people above him? Because it does seem to be that there's definitely a reason. There must be a reason why things are taking way too long. It's going to feel like 39. Wow, it's going to feel like landing on the sun. Yeah, it's depressing. I quite like the warm weather, but there is a limit. I mean, we have no aircon, so this room will be like a sauna later in the week. So we will definitely have some hot takes. Kevin, good morning to you, Kevin. Hope you're good. Good morning to you, Jono, as well. If we're going to buy Fernandez for over 85 million, we should have got Tonali for 90 million. So Tonali, then this might be bad news for Jono, but apparently, again, you have to kind of like take the news with a pinch of salt at the moment. Apparently, Spurs are going to make a bid for Tonali. We don't know if that's true, but it might be true. But if Spurs are going to be bidding for Tonali, maybe that means that Man United, like, we're not prepared to pay the amount of money Tonali costs. It could be that. So I'm thinking regarding Tonali, yeah, we're not going to see too much. All right, this is going to be a bit shorter. So if anyone's got any final questions at all, please get them in. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're able to share any information at all, then please also get involved. If you can share the stream on your socials, that'll really help. But if anyone's got like a final comment, my kind of final take on this is, unfortunately, if a lot of people keep pushing out information saying a deal's going to happen quite soon, I don't think it is. Unfortunately, it's going to be. I think the Tonali deal might have been off the table. I agree with Yarley. I think at the moment, yeah, midfield is a priority. I think at the moment we're just going to have to. Unfortunately, if anyone thinks there's going to be a quick resolution, we're probably not going to hear too much until something actually happens. But maybe some of the bigger United channels that are talking about Fabrizio Romano as being fact, maybe they need to be a little bit more skeptical on this one. That Fabrizio Romano does seem to have less information than he used to, and I think there's definitely been people that have been limiting information regarding him. So I think Tonali will end up at Spurs. It's possible. It's possible. The only thing I can think of at the moment is Manchester United. If it's true, and like Man United do deals, they tend to do deals at the start of July. West Ham might need money before the end of June. That might be a reason why something happens sooner rather than later. So it might hopefully be over the next week. Scaffolding, oh, that's going to be a nightmare. If you're outside, it's going to be like a sauna, isn't it? So 350 get decent air conditioning. Would I be pleased if we signed Somerville? I don't know. That's a good question, actually. It might depend a bit on the cost. I'll have to say that when I've watched West Ham, I wasn't really focusing on Somerville. And West Ham, obviously, when West Ham are running a low block as well, they're not going to be attacking as much. But no, from what I've seen in the World Cup, I thought he looked really good. So might depend on the price, but I thought the Netherlands looked exciting, clinical. When they destroyed, and they completely destroyed Sweden, didn't they? I thought they looked really good. I think like Gravenberch was controlling things. You looked at, well, even Memphis Depay was looking okay in that team, but I don't know. He looks like he looked quite attacking, quite exciting. And in terms of the way that the Netherlands were attacking in that match, the speed on transition, the counter-attacking, the directness, and also was it him that put a? He must have got a couple of assists, hasn't he? So I don't know. I think he looks like an exciting player from what I've seen in the World Cup. But let's see. I would be interested to see how he does against better quality opposition. But he looks decent, doesn't he? Maybe there is like a little bit of thought as well. This will be like a little bit of a final thought thing. There has been a few people speculating that maybe the reason why it's taken so long with Matheus Fernandes, maybe there's some truth in the rumours that Man United are actually considering getting both players. So maybe that's a factor. It could be. That's what I'm thinking. It could be a factor as well. It must be like you're just setting up a series of fans around your house. 17 outside. I think outside now it's probably, I don't know, low 20s at the moment. Actually, no. When the sun goes over the house, the other side, it's going to be a nightmare. Big up to you, Genghis. I'm about to wrap up. I'm doing a bit of shorter streams because of um, I'm going to try and do a 1 p.m. stream as well, but it might be that I just limit to one stream a day depending on news. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and morning streams for a little bit, but they're going to be like 45 minutes to an hour maximum, and then we'll see. A big up to you, Nems. Hope you're keeping well, my friend. Been a little while. But I said we're going to try and do like 1 p.m. I say 1 p.m. streams a day, but 9 a.m. streams, it might be like 9 to 9:45, depending on how it goes. But I think more streams, but they will be a bit shorter. Kevin says, do you really want Matheus Fernandes at Manchester United? Just be patient. That's all I can say. That nothing's been decided yet. Say linked with Germany's the Mecca, but then anyone who wants to raise their profile links to Man United. I've already seen. I've already seen people talking about, like Arsenal fans talking about Nemeka as a target. So I don't know if this is true or not. It does seem to be that it's a stage where there's so many people linking putting information out there. I don't know if it's true or not. So I don't want to, I'm not going to say that we're linked to Nemeka when I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm kind of like bracing myself for a wave of heat later in the week. Now, big up to you, Genghis. You're welcome. If you're in the Discord, there is a pinned link to the Discord in the chat for socials. I will try and get a bit more active on TikTok as well. But I kind of took a break on the weekend, bit of family stuff, and I was doing other things. And I thought I'd take a bit of time off, but this week we'll be back on it. And potentially collaborations later in the week as well. I'm in talks with a couple of people. United might pivot to Nemeka if the Fernandes deal doesn't get done. He's valued at 45 million, so you could have seen that coming. I'm not sure we will. We'll see, Jim. We're not sure. No, no worries. 1 p.m. UK time is like the kind of go-to time for streams, and then 9 a.m. is going to be a bonus depending on news and depending on how organised I am in the morning. But it might be like I do like 9 to 9:30 or something like that, just to keep things a bit more sensible. Because it was doing multiple streams a day is just getting a bit too much when there's limited news. But big up to you guys in the chat. Thanks everybody that's been supporting the 9 a.m. stream. And great comments and questions today. I think most people are probably just annoyed at the moment that nothing much is happening. I'll try and bring you something at 1 p.m. If you got any thoughts on things you'd like to cover in the stream, then if you're not on Discord, which Discord's obviously like an easy way to contact us, if you're not on TikTok, then please just leave a comment on any video and I'll see it and we can go from there. If there's significant updates, then go for that as well. Exactly. I'm off to get some water and watch a few of the highlights from last night's games. But stay safe if it's really hot where you are. Stay relaxed. If Man United news is stressing you out, don't worry. Just relax. Like I think that's what the media wants you to get annoyed and angry. And hopefully, I'm not making you pissed off with what's happening either. I'm trying to be calm and relaxed and just discuss things in a sensible way. But yeah, I'm also frustrated that Man United don't do deals. But again, if we do bad deals, I'll be more annoyed. I'll put it that way. So I'll let's just see what happens, and we can judge. Though we can judge Ineos based on the deals that actually come through the door. And at the moment in time, we don't know what that's going to be. But stay safe, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. 1 p.m. stream will be the next time. Until then, hopefully I'll catch you then.